So I had my video deleted about a week ago. I made a video titled "Your Cranium Ukrainian," and it got deleted. So, you know, I just want to say thank you to YouTube, which is all good. I'm not really offended or even bothered by it. Matter of fact, when I got the email, they asked me if I wanted to appeal it, and, you know, I said no. I mean, why the fuck would I appeal it? I must have said something there that was basically infringing on, like, copyright, or let's say I may have been talking shit about something that is basically something that I may have gotten offended if they were talking about me in a certain way, you know? So it is what it is. I said, okay, no problem. Thank you, YouTube. In my mind, I said, and you know, I apologize if I offended you in any kind of way, or the intellectual property or information that I was talking about. I will redo the video and you know, word shit a little bit differently. I mean, if for the 30 plus people who watched that video, I'm pretty sure they heard toward the end of the video that I did say that I wasn't planning on how I was going to make this video. I was just making the video and just letting shit flow out. So I really didn't structure anything accordingly. Didn't care about how I worded shit. Just said what I had to say, and that's it. Now in this video, all right, which is going to be something else, I'm going to be talking about urine therapy. And the reason I'm going to talk about urine therapy is because, for one, I'll start with this. I am a student of, you know, iridology in, you know, the International School of Regenerative Detoxification under Robert Morse, which is a naturopathic doctor. Now, you must understand, the reason I am actually taking these courses is because of the fact that I find high resonance in the information that I've heard throughout the years, to where, you know, the industries I've worked on has basically been the supplement industry, you know, basically personal training, nutrition, counseling, and came to a lot of realizations that a lot of, you know, what I've done, I've lost a passion for, is because of the fact that I've changed my perception on how many things are not accurate, and I thought at one point were true and are not actually true. However, there's still even things that you may be listening to now that you think may be true that are still not true. And this is where we talk about listening to certain things and then adding a spin on things. It's not remixing shit. It's basically listening to something and having your own realizations, because you see, I learned from these courses a lot of stuff that I had a lot of realizations on just from gardening, which is why it resonated with me so much, to the point that I decided to take these courses in iridology. However, there's one thing that has been said that still has me questioning, only because of what I have experienced, such as urine therapy, right? Now, when I garden, okay, I'm gardening, and I am gardening in a way that I don't think many people garden. I'm gardening where I'm literally the garden, and it's basically chaos magic in and of itself. Like, I believe gardening is chaos magic. You have gardening where you have a bunch of different species of organisms that may be attracted to your garden based on the type of plants you've put in there. You may attract certain pests, and these pests will attract predatory insects that would actually eat on those, and so on and so on. Basically, the ecosystem becoming bigger and more expansive, you know. In a way, one would say, you know, keep it simple, keep it this, keep it that, by using pesticides. And see, this is one thing that I actually came to realize. You have to have this land working for you. You don't work for the land. And the way the land works for you is basically you set up the garden, okay? You have an intent behind why you're even doing a garden. Is it for love, or is it because you're in lack, and, you know, you heard that there's going to be a food shortage, so you're going to, you know, basically go into doing gardening? You know, there's many, that's like people going to the gym and working out because they grew up with childhood traumas on being picked on, so now they go work out. But why is it that you truly work out? You get what I'm saying? I have reasons why I truly work out. You know what I'm saying? And this has a lot to do with exorcism, and I'll make another video on that so it doesn't make this video crazy, because I know I tend to go all over the place, but it's all good. And I want to talk about the gardening part of this real quickly first. See, I'm gardening. When I moved here, the plants, I don't know what it was about it. It was just looking at a seed was just something so magical to me. And the fact that I was, you know, I germinated it, and it broke open, and I saw a little thread fiber come out called a root. it fascinated me. I look at this like a little magic seed, and then just the mere fact of looking at it and saying, wow, this is a fucking tree. This little seed, and it makes a huge fucking tree. So I got trees in my yard that I started from seed, like apple trees. I've got lemon trees that I started from seed, avocados. I've got a few plants here that I started from seed, and some I actually propagated from another plant, maybe from a plant that I went to a nursery on, or even just bought a couple of them, and then I was able to, you know, take some seeds and, you know, just continue the process as the years go on. However, while I'm gardening, I'm having many realizations as to the things that we can consider sometimes waste, and the things that we can consider things that are basically recyclable. All right, now things that are recyclable, for example, even like when you eat food scraps, you make compost out of them, but it's not something that the plant can use. See, it has to go through a process where the microorganisms, the earthworms, night crawlers, bacteria, I mean, you could call anything that basically comes out and eats that organic matter, will processes it, and after it processes it, that's what's bioavailable nutrients for the tree or the plant, right? However, there's people who say, because you buy these on Amazon, you could go buy earthworms, you could go buy ladybugs, you could go buy a plethora of different things on Amazon. However, what is the guarantee that these things are going to work for you? See, the thing is that you can't just introduce these things to clay soil. You see, you would have to actually put the organic food scraps in the soil, all right? And then that is inviting these things into your garden so that they can eat, and then it processes it, and it makes the soil rich, because what they're processing is what's actually making the soil rich. Their shit. You get what I'm saying? So we're giving them something to come to the garden for. The same thing when you have certain pests in your yard, like whiteflies or whatnot. I let them rock, and what happens? I get a plethora of ladybugs that just happen to come to the yard to feast on these whiteflies, right? If I would have used insecticides, I would have killed the food production for these beneficial insects to come in, right? Now, the same thing with poop. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go outside, and I'm sure my dog took plenty of shits in my garden. So I'm gonna go outside and show you something right now, real quickly, that we actually go buy as fertilizers in Lowe's or... Look at this. I want you to see. So my dog eats raw food, right? This is poop right here. You see it? I want you to see something. Look at that. You see that? Look, this is his turd. It looks like a little piece of chalk. Look at this. You see that? This actually, when you step on it, or if anything basically falls on it, it turns to powder. All right. This is what we would buy in Lowe's or Walmart in the plant section. We call that bone meal. We even have something called blood meal, right? So you see, when I lived in New York, I stepped on poop and it smeared all over my shoe, but the smell was horrible. I can pick that little piece of turd up and crush it with my fingers and it will not even smell. Okay, fascinating, right? So my dog, what does he eat? He eats raw eggs. He eats raw turkey necks, right? That's the protein side of it. But here's the thing though, it's not cooked. The reason these animals get human diseases is because we cook and season this shit and then they eat it, and then that's what's fucking them up, right? He eats raw fruits. So it's like a 50-50 split. If I make green juices, I actually take the actual juice and pour it in his dog food plate. I take a raw egg and I throw it in there, and then I take some of the broken down fibrous whatever's left over, but only a small amount, and throw it in there, and I mix it. It looks literally like raw scrambled eggs. That's what it is for him. So he's eating everything raw, but he's getting all the nutrients and micronutrients he needs. In turn, when he poops, that's what it looks like. Okay? That's compost for the soil, because no different than the earthworms and the microorganisms that process that organic matter underneath, it happens up above as well. Humans have this ability too. See, however, humans cannot do this because humans are not eating a biologically appropriate diet. Aside from that, they're on so many drugs and medications that this would actually be toxic to the environment. which is why a waste plant or company has to make sure that this is basically kept under control. You get what I'm saying? So when you poop, it should be bioavailable nutrients for the soil as well, if you are on a 100% raw food diet. Why? Especially just fruits, which we're designed to be actual frugivores, right? I'll get into another discussion as far as protein goes and whatnot, because even the protein content of what we look at when we're cooking it, we're not really getting that protein. In fact, you know what's funny? If I pick up an earthworm from the ground and I say, eat this, right? You'll be like, oh no, that's nasty. Hell no. You're conditioned to look at that as like the most horrendous thing on the planet, right? But if I give you a cheeseburger, right? And oh, so that's delicious with a piece of cheese on top. See, that burger is ground up from a bunch of different parts of the animal, right? It could be assholes, it could be snout, it could be fucking nails from the fucking animal. And not only that, but there's animals that have tumors. That doesn't go to waste. That gets grounded up in the beef as well. No, but that's not nasty though. You know what I'm saying? And then you cook it. All right? But that's not nasty. Right? So we talk about bioavailable nutrients. You see, this is the thing though. Do you think that once upon a time, you always hear about the worm in the apple, right? The worm, right, makes its way into the apple. And the whole thing is that if you eat that apple with that worm in it, you have a balanced diet, because you're actually getting a little bit of the protein from that worm. And yeah, and one would say, yeah, but it makes a little bit of a rotting effect when the worm is eating its way in there. Matter of fact, when you eat that part of the apple as well, that's actually very, very good for your stomach. See, there's certain things that people go in with these crazy ideas of eating fermented meat and eating all these crazy things, right? But then when you see an apple, right, because fermented meat, if you smell it, that's not attractive to eat. That's not something you want to eat. You know what I'm saying? But you can take one of these apples, and even if it has the worm in it, you technically can still eat that whole apple. Now, one would say, well, why do I get sick after, they got some ideas called E. coli and salmonella and all that. See, these are bacterias, right, that actually you already have in your gut, in your stomach. But however, when you're on a Western, all right, or the standard American diet, okay, then you don't have these organisms living in your body. You actually have a different type of species of worms and animals that actually live in your stomach to actually help you even process that kind of shit. Because if you didn't even have those kind of worms or animals in your body, and you're introducing that kind of matter into your system, you would die, because you wouldn't even be able to process all that shit. You get what I'm saying? But then we got the idea of, like, now when you get infections and whatnot, you got to take antibiotics. Do you see why your waste would not even be usable for the planet? Now, here's the thing though. There's something called nitrogenous waste and ammonia. You know what I'm saying? That's passed down from the liver to the kidneys to be excreted through your urine. All right? Ammonia, all right, is one nitrogen molecule, all right, and is actually the most toxic one. Okay? This has to come out. When you're on a high protein diet, this is why you have the urge to pee. Your body's trying to expel shit that doesn't belong in there. When you're sick, you don't notice how they tell you hydrate? Because drink plenty of fluids when you're sick. Why is that? Your body's using water from the body to expel waste. So when you have fevers, mucus, it could be anything. It's actually, it needs water to expel these toxins out. So when you're eating a high protein diet, right, it's actually causing you to pee, because it's dehydrating you to get rid of toxins that you're putting into the body that don't belong in there. Okay? The same thing when you're eating too much salt, right? When you're eating too much salt, that's why it's toxic to the planet. When you're eating salt, like from that you buy in the supermarket, you have to have a larger amount of supposed sodium that the Food and Drug Administration will tell you need, because it's the wrong kind of sodium. You can live off the smallest amount of sodium, which literally can come out from whatever you're eating from the ground, like a carrot, beets, celery, right? The fruits that you would pick in your garden. If you were living on that kind of sodium only, then you wouldn't need that much sodium, because you're not dehydrated, because you're eating fruits that hold water. When you eat meats, they're dehydrating because the acidic content is so high. Plus you season it, so that's dehydrating you. So they're telling you that you need to have this amount of salt in your system, where that's actually backwards, because salt is also dehydrating. So for normal nerve and cell function, you need organic kind of salt, and that would require just a small little amount. It's just like if you're eating an appropriate diet, you don't even need to eat a lot because you're eating the right mineral and vitamin content. But when you're eating shit that has no vitamins because you denatured it the moment you cooked it, or has no life force, then the body's still starving. That's why you're always hungry, you know? Why do you think when you listen to information, you're consuming information? But when you're hungry for more knowledge, that means you got nothing out of what you listened to, because you were just listening to something and you weren't even able to really process. It didn't fulfill you. There comes a point where you may not even want to listen to any more information. It comes to the point where you have to start putting things into practice. These things that I'm talking about are not bought by people because they cannot fathom that idea of how this shit works, because they've been indoctrinated since they were young as far as what nutrition is, what life force is, energy. Like, you think of energy as just one thing. If you have low energy, people think of caffeine to get moving, right? But there's different kinds of energy, right? There's sexual energy. So if I give you a caffeine pill, it ain't going to make your dick hard, right? That's a different kind of energy. You can get energy from breathing properly, hydrating properly, right? From eating the right mineral content in the body that your body can process. That's the whole thing. It's what you can actually process. All this out here is you, inverted inside out. What are you using outside of you, and for what intent do you do things? So if I'm drinking my piss, okay, I'm drinking it to become a better human, or am I drinking it with a spiritual intent behind it? Because everything starts from a metaphysical thought first. So why am I drinking it? To make my body a better body, to be a better human? Or am I doing it for other purposes? Because there is actual life force in your urine. It's actually moving through your system, right? It's moving through your system. So there's a life force content in it. There's hormones in it, right? So, but why are we not able to drink it? Because even when you're eating certain things, even the organic foods that you think you're eating from the supermarket, okay, still have some type of chemicals to it. Because I've grown food here and they don't look like the ones in the supermarket. They don't look, and my organics food doesn't look like the ones in the supermarket. They don't even taste close to it either. But why? Over here, I can notice I grow some cantaloupe. It's inevitable that I'm going to get a worm in it to some extent. I mean, I cut around it. But, I mean, I'm thinking, and I'm like, why would I cut around it? Why don't I just eat the whole fucking cantaloupe with the worm in it and everything? Oh, it's indoctrination. It's kind of nasty, right? You see, the poop is not something you can eat, because people who debate on urine therapy would say, well, what's next? You're going to eat your own poop? Well, no, because it's no different than what I just told you. If I poop on the ground, it has to be processed by certain things for it to be bioavailable to something else, right? So my poop would not be something that's usable for me, but it's usable for the planet. And in kind, the planet is me. It's my body. So if I piss and I'm eating an appropriate diet, my urine is, first of all, it's 95% water, right? So if I'm pissing on a plant, I'm literally watering the plant. But the amount of waste in it depends on the waste that I have put in. So what you're consuming, the amount that's coming out of your mouth, depends on how much garbage you haven't filtered through what you've actually been listening to as well. Which is why I say you got to keep your filters clean. It don't matter where you're at in the city. Don't matter where you're at. Keep your filters clean so you can filter garbage and you can actually take out the nutrients and give it to everybody else who is still you. You're recycling this shit now, and it's passing down generational wealth. So if I guide my child, I took in the right nutrients, I can process the information as nutrients, expel the waste, okay, and just give my child the nutrients. Everybody that I experience in my reality are my children, and in kind, I'm your child as well. We are all each other's children, but the children guide you to some extent, don't you? The planet, mother told me all this information as I garden. I didn't hear this from anybody else. You know what I'm saying? The whole fact of urine therapy, because I'm a student of Dr. Robert Morse, doesn't mean I have to exactly agree with all that. You see, the whole thing about the urine, okay, there's a lot more to the urine. There's a lot more to the urine. When I reintroduce it to my body, right, I'm reintroducing it with an intent of it's a medicinal property behind it. It's no different than if I eat food. Food could be a drug as well, right? Food and drug administration is in the same category. Some people get addicted to shit that doesn't belong in their system because it has addictive properties to it, right? But when you eat fruits, you can feel satiated after one apple, after one orange. But when you have a donut, you got to have a lot of donuts, right? Because it's got that triggering effect. So if I reintroduce the urine into my body, I have to make sure first that I'm eating the right chemistry, so that when I reintroduce it, I'm not introducing nitrogenous waste and ammonia that doesn't belong back in my system. The amount would be very, very little depending on what I've eaten. But it's the life force behind it. But you'd rather drink water in a bottle, where that water's been sitting there, plus it's been heated or processed in a way that it has nothing to it. It's just pure water, right? Water is slightly acidic too. But the acid content of your urine depends on what you're actually eating. The salt content depends on the sodium content you've been eating. So if I'm eating sodium naturally from the soil, then of course I'm actually utilizing this sodium. My sodium is not going to come out of my urine the way you think it's going to come out. The protein content, if I'm eating it from an actual bioavailable source, something that's not cooked, it's naturally alkaline, neutral, because it comes from nature. So you know, everybody takes things and isolates them instead of looking at it from a bigger fucking spectrum of things. Like, you look at the weeds in your garden and you want to go kill it, not knowing that there's medicinal properties to those weeds, right? But they all emit a certain frequency to harmonize with the organs that are in a disharmonious state in your body. Because these organs, and you see these weeds, they're all connected. They're all the same. So that's why when you introduce it, right, you become a cellmate, right? They become cellmates, and they have a chemistry. They neutralize acid, neutralize disharmony, right? And harmonize. So, but what do? They take it out, they process it in a laboratory, isolate it, and resell it back to you. But then you have to go buy, you know, chemicals to kill these weeds in your garden, right? Meanwhile, they're using them as their blueprint to reintroduce it back into your body a certain way. Same thing with like protein shakes or anything that you buy in the outside stores. Don't matter what it is. And you know, the thing is that I definitely want to have conversations on people with this, because this is not even information that's not out there. It's out there. You just have to ask the right questions. And sometimes you asking the right questions would be first you having certain realizations first to even ask the right questions. How would you know what questions to ask? First, you have to realize the internet is not there to get you or to block you or do anything against you. I am the internet. In fact, I get what I need from the internet. I'm grateful for the internet. But we misuse technology. The way we mistreat animals, we mistreat the internet as well. You have no idea what the internet even is. You just use it. What is technology? You have the ultimate technology within you. When you start to realize certain things about your technology and the systems that you are sleeping and waking up with, you'll even have a clearer understanding of the systems outside of you, and you'll even be able to ask the right questions to get the right answers from what you think is against you, the internet. Because there's nothing out here but you. This is all you. Do you misuse your systems? Or do you use your systems in a harmonious way? Like we always talk about, there's two sides of chemistry, right? Acids and alkaline. So that's all I want to cover for this video. And if I have anything else to add to the urine therapy topic, or if anybody wants to add something to the urine therapy topic, then, you know, add it on. We'll talk soon.